Now Lab.
Welcome to the second part of cultural equity, where we are going to understand why there is a need to work and fight for equity in our society. While we explore the root causes of inequity and what are the practical ways to understand and articulate this in our grant application. In Arts Collab, we have been able to cultivate a safe space where creative entrepreneurs and community-based artists can incubate their vision and develop it further, ranging from theater performances for domestic workers to sound healing ceremonies for veterans and people with PTSD to creating galleries and exhibitions showcasing narratives that are generally pushed to the margins. The superpower of this space is to allow artists to explain how our work is creating a more balanced and just world for our communities. Considering the transformative power of creativity and its impact on communities, what can we create to inspire wonder and illuminate the possibilities that exist when we allow ourselves to dream and imagine away from oppressive structures? First, I want to start by showing you this image that very easily illustrates the different scenarios in our collective journey to achieve justice for us all. First, you can see the system as it is today. There's a systemic disadvantage that some people benefit from. This is people who are born into rich and well-connected families, people who have had access to education and resources, and above all, people who identify with the centers of power, patriarchy, white supremacy, and extractive capitalism. But before I get ahead of myself, you can see the next image. This is what equality looks like. This is what the government claims to do. Hey, hold on, we are giving everybody the same opportunities, not accounting for the hundreds of years of built inequality and the current bias of institutions, networks, and the lack of access to infrastructure. The third picture gives us a better sense of the real needs of people, from each according to their ability to each according to their needs. Let me say that again, from each according to their ability to each according to their needs. This illustrates the work that we are trying to do at Arts Collab, to not only build a strong network of artists and collaborators, but also to create the basic infrastructure that we need to support the development of your practice and your vision. This is the stage that we are building right now. And of course, at the end is the final stage, where we can all be if we continue this work. As you can imagine, it is not going to be easy to rectify a crooked tree, but with all of our collective work, we will all be free. But let's start from the beginning. What is equity? Equity is a relationship between the input and the outcome of any enterprise. We understand input as the work, time, resources, and energy that we put into anything, and the outcome is a success, profit, advance, or growth that we get out of any project. Now, in an ideal world, we would all have a similar, if not the same outcome from doing the same work or investing the same amount of energy into something. But we all know that that is not the case. This is because the system has been built upon some core biases, and these are white supremacy, patriarchy, and extractive capitalism. And in here I want to pause and make a note that extractive capitalism implies the disconnection with nature and an over-exploitation of resources in the name of profit alone. It is what politicians sell us as progress, and which is in direct opposition of indigenous cosmovision and practices. Overall, it is paramount to name that this is a system in which black bodies, women, and the LGBTQ community and nature are most exploited. But I digress. If someone working for 60 hours is making the same amount of money that another person that is only working for 20 hours doing the same work, not working those additional 40 hours is a sign of privilege. And that is a manifestation of inequity. Let me focus on that word again. Privilege. In the last few years, the notion of privilege has become the boogeyman. Every time that someone is called privileged, any time that anyone is confronted with this notion, there is a sense of shame and guilt in understanding that we get to take advantage of the system, and access better life conditions due to our proximity to power. We in Arts Collab believe that there is an incomplete understanding of this conversation and its relationship to our social reality. Let me explain why. I personally identify as a cisgender man from Mexico. I had the opportunity to go to college and I speak somewhat fluent English. Those are characteristics that put me at an advantage in many spaces. However, I am also a brown-skinned immigrant from Mexico who was undocumented for a few years and who has no access to generational wealth or connections in the United States. These have been hindrances to achieving the best life conditions I could have, and together, these are some of the intersections that I identify with. In fact, we all sit at a crossroads of multiple intersections that give us a social standing. So, given that we all experience a certain amount of exploitation and privilege from a system in which we overall have little power individually, why don't we take the guilt and shame out of that equation and instead we bring a compassionate approach? In that instance, the question goes from how dare you be this privileged to what am I doing with my privilege to support others without it? And how can we use this notion to build liberatory structures that are effective for everyone and not just for the few? Multi-generational inequity. Of course, when those factors accumulate for 2, 3, or more generations, the effects are much clearer and heavier, and they extend to entire communities. A study for the NAACP in 2019 revealed that the lifespan of a dollar in the Asian community is 28 days. In other words, this is how long it takes for the money to leave the circular economy of a given community. If I spend my money in an Asian-owned business, it's going to take 28 days to circulate within the Asian community. Another example is that in the Jewish community, the lifespan of a dollar is 19 days. However, and this is the shocking part, the lifespan of a dollar in the African American community is of approximately 6 hours. This speaks not only about the consumer habits of our communities, but also about the availability of Black-owned business and the infrastructure and historical conditions created to keep those dollars in our community. The access to housing, healthcare, loans, and property that has been affected by inequitable, racist, and exploitative policies. These are all very powerful ideas that, nevertheless, need to be articulated in order to communicate their urgency and their value to our potential funders. And the truth is that while we might have a clear sense of the inequities in our communities, it is important to back these narratives with historical, political, and social facts that have shaped those inequities. And I know, I am just an artist, I don't know much about the economy, I don't know much about politics. Well, let me say this out loud and clear, that culture is one of the 3 more important pillars of how we build our society every single day. La cultura es una herramienta necesaria para garantizar la dignidad de los pueblos. Culture is an essential tool to guarantee the dignity of all people. Let me just say this. A lot of our practices have their roots in the inequities that we have been experiencing throughout our lives. If you are here, it's very likely that you understand that there is a need in your community and that we are trying to highlight these issues or even trying to provide a solution for them through our artistic practice. This is where we have to contextualize our practices and create a narrative that goes beyond our lived experiences. Let me give you an example. If I write in my grant that the police is racist, we might have grant panelists who agree or disagree. However, if I cite research that shows that 85% of people currently in jail are Black and brown bodies, it's not my word, it is just a fact. Through culture, we can educate society, we can galvanize our communities, and we can push for solutions that benefit us all. I want to share my experience learning and working alongside the Latino Cultural District in the Mission. In San Francisco, the Coalition of Merchants of 24th Street organized to create the first ever cultural district in California. and in the US. The Coalition of Merchants of 24th Street organized to create the first ever cultural district in California and in the US in 2015. This is a geographic location in which, with the support of the community, they passed legislation to provide rights to local businesses, residents, artists, and cultural practices in order to protect our community from gentrification. This tool continues to be replicated across San Francisco and across the nation. We are currently at 13 cultural districts in the city of San Francisco who are providing protections to our communities. So, as you can see, there is an opportunity to have a new perspective, one of inclusivity, sustainability, and reciprocity. And I am going to close this video with a phrase from Fabiana Rodriguez, who says, "When culture shifts, policy follows." Thank you for watching this video. I hope you can come back to it and rewatch it in order for you to gather questions so that we can have a good conversation during our time together. Let's continue learning and growing together. All the love, all the power.
Arts House Lab.